This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in the beautiful mountains above Denver, Colorado. I'm here with IT Wiring. Since 2018, they have provided voice and data communications, end-to-end cabling solutions for companies here in Colorado and across the nation. I am joined by Mike, who is the founder. Thanks so much for joining us again, Mike. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, really this journey of communications, technology, began for you back in the 80s. I mean, formally educated back then. The interest began for you in the Air Force, probably even the latter 70s there. You have educated yourself as technology has evolved. You've actually even volunteered on a board of directors. We were out here back in 2015 with Hegdahl Enterprises. Share with me a little bit how this vision began of IT Wiring.
I have been in the industry here in Colorado since 1983, and a friend of mine joined me, and we decided to start another company that had more of an industry recognition name.
Excellent. Let me ask you this. I mean, when you began back in the 80s here, obviously technology was evolving. It's safe to say that technology is here. There is not a company out there, I don't think, that can survive without data communications. Would you say that for most of them, data is the lifeblood of their company?
Absolutely. The infrastructure that we provide for people gives the connectivity from their server room and their ISP or internet service provider to the desktop via hardwire or via wireless. Paging systems, CCTV, all of their communications needs and security needs. That's what we are experts at, and we've been very successful. So it's very good.
Honestly, for the end user, typical employee or customer that's inside of these companies, all we see is a friendly user interface. Usually in the form of a computer screen, maybe a tablet, or even on our phone. Yet, we don't really need to know how everything works. Behind the scenes, there are miles and miles of cabling that connect everybody together, and when that cabling doesn't work correctly, I imagine that company can stop. Is this something that you take very seriously when companies out there entrust you with such an important project?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that people don't realize is there's constantly upgrades to their software. They upgrade their hardware, but when they make those changes to their data network, there are changes that are required to be upgraded in the walls and from the servers directly to the users, because as data speeds increase, the old cabling can't handle the speeds that their new equipment software can provide, and that's something that is very easily overlooked.
And like you say, obviously, to upgrade your software is a simple click, download is there, but yet if your structure can't handle that, you're only as good as your weakest link, as they say, and that can pose a problem. Not only do these cables connect the employees and the customers within that organization together, but also connecting to the outside world. Most of these companies are working with the outside world. I mean, they're selling globally sometimes. When that stops, that can be a major problem. Is it always better to do it right on the first go ahead than find out you have problems later on?
Well, I mean, granted, when you add new equipment to your office, you don't always have to upgrade your cabling. You may have sufficient cabling in place, but it is always a good idea to have it looked at and if need be, upgraded so that you can alleviate problems before you have them.
I mean, many of these projects can be very comprehensive. They require some complex solutions. Does it really all begin with a good design I mean, is it something that's thought out beforehand, and is this something that you can share with the client up front and kind of explain things before you actually go in and make it happen?
Absolutely. It's like building a home. You have to start with the foundation first. And when you do the proper planning and implement the installation accordingly, then you can alleviate a lot of the problems. Many times you're in an old building, you upgrade your servers and your computers and your internet provider, but if you don't upgrade the cabling, you're going to have lost packets, you're going to have disconnects, equipment's going to crash, and a lot of people don't even think about the wire in between it. They blame the software, they blame the internet provider, and many times it's as simple as the cabling within their office that is old and it's not designed to handle today's speeds.
Much of the technology that basically you're able to provide for folks, like you say, the end user doesn't need to know what goes on behind the scenes, either does the company, and many times. Is it important for you to provide a turnkey solution so they're able to easily implement this technology?
We are basically a member of a much larger team. We provide the level 1 infrastructure. There are many layers of a data network. We provide the level 1 infrastructure, which is the hardwire from their server room to the desktop. They have people who do the programming and they provide the computer equipment. And we work hand in hand with those people to make sure that we provide not only what the client needs and requires and wants, but what the other members of their team require to make their part of the job work as well. So it's not just what we provide, it's what we provide as a team with what they already have in place as far as personnel and equipment.
That is interesting. I mean, obviously, let's touch on a little bit about in-plant. It seems to me there's a lot of moving pieces, is what you're saying, and it requires a team. You're basically a link in a chain that basically everything's working together. Some of the things that take place in plant, like that of voice and data wiring. Like you said, you've got people that are taking care of the computer network equipment. You've got data center build-outs. You've got clean room build-outs. Are all these things, pretty much it doesn't seem like it's a one-size-fits-all for these companies. This is a very customized approach that you have to come in and find out what works best for them.
Absolutely. They have things in place unless they're a completely new startup.
Right.
And if they're a completely new startup, we still need members of all those teams to work together to provide what the company is looking to do and what they're looking for capabilities to be able to do. And we'll work with all of those members of their team to make sure that the end user and the company have what they need to be successful.
I mean, let me ask you this. Like you said, if it's a new company maybe that's just starting out with new construction, do some of these companies have their own technicians on site? But if there's companies that need technicians on site, maybe a contract technician, are these areas that you're able to help with them as well?
Very much so. We have clients that depend completely on us to do all of their cabling work. I have customers that will call me and when they have a problem, and I can refer them to the appropriate people that need to take care of that particular problem, or I take care of it for them if it's something that we do for them. But we try to be as much of a asset to all of our customers as possible.
That's interesting. As we move outside the plant, there's a lot of wiring, cabling going on in a plant. Outside the plant, you're talking about aerial, you're talking about underground. This is really where the team is in the trenches, if you will. Is this an area that is a little more challenging when you're talking about the climate of Colorado and some of these states that you work in?
You know, it's something that we have to do. You see crews, unless it's just completely inclement weather, working out in the snowstorms or whatever. There are things that will limit what we can do as far as very bad weather. Colorado is a state that it has mild enough weather that we can do outside work pretty much year round. Like I said, there are days where it's just not not a good thing to do. So.
Exactly. Like we said before, I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Do many of these projects require multiple type of cabling? We're talking about fiber optic, coax, even telephone lines. Are these really a combination of all of them going on, and something that you think your experience throughout the years of working with each one of these is able to further enhance that project?
Sure. There's, like you said, all the different kinds of cable, but as the industry evolves, there is becoming less and less telephone cable.
Yeah.
Most of the phones anymore are running over data cable through voice over IP, and the data networks are encompassing more and more, including power over Ethernet to run like wireless access points and cameras, and so as equipment changes, so does the equipment cabling requirements change. So it's not a thing that changes overnight. So as people migrate to new equipment, so does our cabling.
I would imagine. You yourself, I mean, it's a Colorado-based company. You service companies here in Colorado, but really across the nation. With companies you've worked at in the past, you personally have been able to oversee some pretty amazing projects. Here locally at DIA, that's a large project. Regardless of the project that you're working on, do you take a certain pride in each one of them and making sure that everything is done the best it can be?
Oh, absolutely. The DIA was one of those feathers in my cap that I was fortunate enough to be with a company that had a large presence out there, main terminal and Concourse B, and all of the retail shops in all of the concourses and the main concourse, and the wireless antennas for cell phones. We did a lot of work out there, and just definitely a feather in everybody's cap.
That is interesting. As you look back over the past, 30 plus years that you've been involved in this technology, you really have a reputation that is built on years of experience. Many clients that probably have become friends throughout the years, and you've probably gone back and helped them along as they've regrown. Does this continue to be rewarding for you as these people put their trust in you?
Sure. I mean, there's as time marches on for all of us, we are bringing in new clients at all the time, and it's very interesting. I had a conversation with one of our technicians. It's one of the really nice things about our industry is there's nothing mundane about it. It's something new every day.
Constantly, like you said, you began your formal education back in the 80s, but honestly, this is ongoing for you. Do you enjoy the challenge of some of the projects that you're able to take part in?
Very much so. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So it's really nice to go into a completely unfinished space, work with the customers, find out what they're looking for, build it with the GCs, and walk away from it a finished product. And we're human. We make mistakes just like everybody does, but we test all of our work so that we find our mistakes and they don't.
That is wonderful. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. First of all, on the website, learn a little bit more about the story here. This is a gentleman that began right here, Colorado-based, and is providing solutions out there, end-to-end cabling solutions in this technological age that we live in now. You can also check out all the different services they provide. We're talking about new construction, existing construction, maybe you have a move in mind, upgrading, quite a few areas that basically they can come in and make sure that your software, your user interface is working correctly and optimally across the board. Once again, that is IT Wiring, located right here in Colorado. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.